Homeschooling during a pandemic. What are my options? Hi, I'm Rasa, and if you are new here, welcome to the channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about your child's continued education at home during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, with schools being shut down and shifting to online learning, what are your options? Now, I have seen tons of people announcing on Facebook that they're going to homeschool for the first time this year. And I know that there are a good amount of people on the fence about what they're going to do because everyone seems to be on the fence right now. Some schools have already made the decision to go completely online this next year. Others are choosing to have some children go to school wearing masks and others stay at home online, and then maybe alternating those groups. There are so many options, and parents are struggling with the unknown of it all. So I just want to start by saying I am not here to convince you of what the best option is for you. I just wanted to let you know a little about the difference between homeschooling versus doing school at home, so you can decide what the best option is for you and your child moving into the next school year. So let's start by defining the terms homeschooling and doing school at home. Now, when I say homeschooling, I'm talking about you picking the curriculum, you are deciding what the day is going to look like, and you get to pick the workload, the pace, the schedule. You're the boss. When I say doing school at home, I'm talking about your child doing regular school in the home setting. So that means their work is assigned and their schedule is determined by a teacher other than you. Their curriculum is already chosen, and you are simply facilitating by making sure they are showing up for their classes online and completing their assignments on time. So there are pros and cons to each one, and you'll have to decide which one works best for you and your family. Now I'm going to talk about doing school at home first. But I want to let you know that I've been homeschooling now for 9 years, and I'd really like you to stay to the end and hear the advantages of both choices before checking out, okay? So stay with me. So we're going to start with doing school at home. Things to consider about it first. So you are still subject to the unknown quite a bit. You don't know what this school year is going to look like, even from day to day. You don't get to pick the curriculum, how it will be implemented, the pace it will be worked through, how much time your child is sitting at a computer. And if your child struggles with the way that things are being taught, or they don't do well with computer learning, it might not be the best option for them. At some point, the school district might decide to send children back to school with masks, and then they might be sent home again. We really don't know. But that not knowingness is part of the thing to consider. There are advantages of doing school at home, though. You are simply facilitating. That could be an advantage. You don't have to plan. You don't have to do research about what materials you're going to use or shop for them. The plan is made and handed to you. There's a teacher that plans, that grades, that tracks everything. I actually signed my oldest daughter up for some online classes through an online Christian school this year. And some of these reasons are why I actually chose this as part of her homeschooling. The advantage of doing this for our family was that my daughter was able to have better accountability with writing classes, and it freed up my schedule to do some work with some of my other children. So this was a great option for us. It might be a little bit different than public schooling in a home setting, in that I got to pick the classes that she was enrolling in and how we were going to fit that into our schedule. But it is one thing to consider. So things to consider with homeschooling. Some of these things that I listed when considering homeschooling are especially for those of you who have never homeschooled before. Okay, I want to keep in mind that people watching this probably have not already done homeschooling. So things that you'll need to think about You will have to do the planning and tracking yourself. So that means choosing the curriculum, the pace that you want to work through it, and you'll also have to keep records of your child's progress along the way. Your child will be accountable to you and not a teacher. You will need to educate yourself about the homeschool laws in your particular state because the homeschool laws vary from state to state. So this can easily be done on Homeschool Legal Defense Association's website, and I'm going to post a link to that in the comment section below. So if that's something that you are thinking about, make sure to check out that resource. It has been really helpful to us, especially as a military family, because we're always moving. So another thing that you'll have to consider is the time investment. It is going to take time to plan, implement, and track your child's progress. There may or may not be a cost associated with homeschooling, choosing to homeschool. There are ways to do free homeschooling, but many people do choose to buy curriculums and books for their children. So if you're looking to find a free curriculum, I'm just going to mention that we use easy peasy online homeschooling for some of our subjects. And if cost is an issue for you, please check out the link that I leave below for that as well. They have every subject there. The curriculum is listed, each day-by-day tracking and day-by-day lesson is already planned, and it's totally free. So you can check that out in the link below if you want to learn more. Now, another thing to consider, this may be like totally new territory for you. And I know for myself, whenever there's new territory, that always comes with a dose of fear with that unknown. So you might not know what curriculum to go with, how much it's going to cost, whether you'll be able to teach everything, or what if you miss teaching them something they need to learn. So these are all common fears that should be considered for sure, but at the same time, you need to know that the homeschool community is so supportive and willing to help and encourage you along the way. Right now, for example, I'm part of a Facebook homeschool group that has been so great, especially when we moved here to Kentucky. It is specific to the homeschool community here in Kentucky. There are resources posted there, advice that people give, people lamenting about a bad day and others coming to cheer them up. Somebody might be sharing about their good homeschool day, and there's just everything in between. When somebody asks a question on there are at least 25 to 30 responses. So besides that supportive community, what are other things that homeschooling can offer, or what would be an advantage of homeschooling? So with homeschooling, you have the advantage of a more flexible schedule and how you want to implement the learning with your child that is engaging in it. So because you are choosing the curriculum, if your child has a hard time understanding a particular way that something's being taught, you can either slow the pace down a little bit, or you could change the curriculum or the style that it's being taught. You're not in this fixed way of learning. There's that flexibility in being able to change that. It is totally up to you. This also means that you're not at the mercy of new COVID regulations interfering with what you're doing. You just keep on trucking through school as usual. Another advantage of choosing the materials being taught is that you are able to allow the interests of your particular child to steer that choosing a little. I don't let them choose everything, but they can help steer their learning in different directions. So for instance, I have had children do research projects and give presentations on things that they were already passionate about. One example of that was my daughter learned about raising chicks for backyard chickens, laying chickens. And so we went ahead and bought some chickens. She raised them from little babies up until they were laying chickens. And, she got to learn how to care for them, what their behaviors were like, how to care for a sick chicken, and got to experience the excitement of finding that first egg when they started laying. Last year, I let my younger 2 students pick the branch of science that they wanted to study. They chose biology. I also let them choose which history course they wanted, and they went with ancient history. Both of those courses were offered on the website that I mentioned, Easy Peasy, the free online curriculum that I had mentioned before. And so those are just some fun ways that I can allow my children to be part of the choices in their education. Another great advantage to homeschooling is that you are able to incorporate the Bible into your lesson plan. We have done this in various ways, either by choosing a Christian curriculum that might already have the Bible and verses incorporated into the lesson plans, or you can use memory verses as handwriting practice, having the children practice reading aloud from passages of Scripture. It's really up to you how you would want to do that. But I also really like that everything that we are talking about and learning throughout the day is done with a Christian worldview. So even when I read books to them, like if I do a read aloud book and it's outside of the Christian sphere, we can stop and have conversations about it as we are reading through it. One example of this is about mid-school year, we started to read and completed reading To Kill a Mockingbird, which stirred up some really rich and interesting conversations with them. And I'm so glad that we can have those conversations to help them view the world through the lens of God's Word. That is one of the biggest advantages to me of homeschooling. So I might be biased, so forgive me for the long list of advantages to homeschooling. It's all I know because I chose to do this with my first kid, and that's all we've done. But here is another advantage. You can use real life as an opportunity to school or teach your child. My son learned to mow the lawn last year, and we decided to change the oil on the mower together as part of his learning this year. So we got to see how to drain the oil, how to change the filter, and put the new oil in the engine. The line between school learning and real life should be so thin that it's almost invisible. So when I'm deeply involved in what the children are learning, I can relate those things to things that are happening in our everyday life. So like today, something silly, my son was throwing his glider plane and it went whoop and just went right back onto the roof behind him. And so it got stuck up there. And he says to me, hey, we should go upstairs and throw a rock out the window to get it down. I said, or should we throw a rock at the window to get it down? And we laughed about it because we've been learning prepositions and prepositional phrases, and we just had a good laugh about the difference between out the window and at the window. So it sounds silly, but taking what we learned in a book and being able to apply it in real life made him see the importance of why we need to know prepositional phrases. So that's just another advantage of homeschooling, that real life aspect. So I would be doing you a disservice and I would be lying to you if I said that homeschool was all sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns, because it is not. Especially in a house of 6 children, ranging from ages to 18 months to 12 years old, I can tell you it is not always sunshine and rainbows. But for us, the advantage to doing homeschooling far outweighs the challenges for us. And I totally understand that not every family is in a position to make the choice to homeschool. But if you're watching this, you might already be considering doing that. Hopefully, I gave you some things to think about and you feel a little bit more educated about schooling at home versus homeschooling. But if you have any questions, please ask away in the comments below. I love to hear and respond to my followers. Thank you so much for taking time to watch this. If you found it helpful, please hit the like button below and consider subscribing to our channel if you haven't already done so. Until next time, God bless. Bye-bye. Mwah.